Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious. We are inside the Hyatt Place Studios in downtown Titusville. Here's the Hyatt Place, just about 3 miles from our beautiful museum, the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville, where it's quite stormy and rainy today. We're getting some of that cold front that's sweeping across the nation a little bit, and we're having some stormy weather, and I don't like that because I got a couple of stargazes planned this weekend. But nonetheless, we need the rain, and weather's good down here in Florida, and we're here to help you learn a little bit about Mars. Today is our program about the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And before I start getting wound up with that, I want to say hi to Marty Winkle, our co-producer here, and working our Streamlabs system to show you a beautiful, what's on my green screen here, do you think? I'll let you ponder that for a second. Is it something I photographed under a microscope? Is it something alien? Well, stay tuned here for just a second, because I want to thank again Mr. Jim Adamson, astronaut, executive, par excellence, involved on all kinds of councils for NASA, including the investigations of Columbia and Challenger, and is still a resource being used today for the International Space Station. He said that he's been on some meetings recently with the General Tom Stafford and about the International Space Station. But thank you, Jim Adamson. If you didn't see this wonderful conversation with this man, please check it out on our library that's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Spotify. But you can see a lot of our 500 episodes on YouTube, and all of them are on Facebook. So thank you, Jim. Great conversation. We hope to have him back soon. So what have I got back there? We're going to talk about the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And before we get involved with that, a reminder that we're going to start promoting our April 16th event, Easter Saturday, at the Hyatt Place Hotel here in Titusville, where we're going to celebrate the golden anniversary of the dawn of the space shuttle era. And we've got 3 launch directors lined up. Mr. Jay Honeycutt's excited to help us, former KSC director. Mike McCulley, astronaut, said he'd be there. We're efforting a couple more astronauts. Hugh Harris is going to be our master of ceremonies, the voice of NASA, and we're going to have vendors. And we'll be launching this to your mailbox tomorrow. Those of you that are on our constant contact list, if you're not, we'll have it on Facebook. And send us a message at info@americanspacemuseum.org, and we'll put you on our list. But we're going to talk about today what is a very important mission to orbiting Mars right now, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, known as MRO, involved with NASA, Jet Propulsion Lab, Arizona, other agencies involved. And what I have behind me is about a 2-mile area of Mars where these unbelievable dunes are that are scouring this cold desert. When you think of Mars, think of Antarctica, because Antarctica would actually be pretty warm day on Mars, though it gets up to as high as 40 or 50 degrees on Mars. That's only for maybe an hour or 2 hours at the surface at your feet. At your knees, it'd be 0, and above your head, below 0, because Mars' atmosphere is so super thin. It's about like 7 miles high where Mount Everest is on Earth, or where airplanes fly. Yet it's a dynamic fluid environment that shifts these sands around that has been part of Mars for billions of years. However, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was launched to find life on, not life on Mars, but evidence of water on Mars. In fact, it was launched in August 2005. Here is the orbiter. Let's take a look at that. Right here from pad 41, actually, at Cape Canaveral Space Force. An Atlas V rocket launched it in 2005. It took about 6-7 months to go to Mars, and has been orbiting since 2006, all right? And that is 16 years from now, and it was built to last 10 years. And boy, are we glad that it's still in orbit, because this is the main communication with the two rovers we have on Mars, Perseverance and Curiosity. And it was the main communication system, or one of them, for the Spirit and Opportunity rovers that were golf cart sized. And Percy and Curiosity are about the size of an SUV car that you may have in your driveway or your neighbor's driveway. So, Marty, how many objects do you think man-made are orbiting Mars right now? And he's going to give a guess of 12. He says 12. Well, that's a good guess, because there's 12 operational vehicles, 8 orbiting and 4 on the surface of Mars, all right? Isn't that incredible to think that the Mars Odyssey NASA mission is approaching its 16th year in orbit? No, it's been in orbit 21 years. Mars Odyssey has, okay, which is incredible that it's still functioning. Mars Express from the European Space Agency has been in orbit since December 2003, so that's 19 years. Our Mars Reconnaissance orbiter has been orbiting Mars since 2006, March 10th, today. India has an orbiter that they put in 2014, 8 years ago, called Mars Orbiter Mission, or MOM. MAVEN is another NASA orbiter that is studying the atmosphere. It's 8 years old. We've got another European Space Agency and Russian orbiter called ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter that's been orbiting for 6 years. And the Arab Emirates Space Agency, United Arab Emirates, has orbited HOPE, has been in orbit now about since February. It was its first year in orbit. And you cannot forget that China has the Tianwen orbiter and a rover on Mars, we'll talk about in a minute, that's been orbiting also a year, all right? So a couple new ones, but none of them are NASA's. And to go back to Mars, we need communications, and we need to have a couple more orbiters built to go to Mars, like Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and Mars Odyssey. We did have Mars Global Surveyor, but it broke down after about almost 20 years in there. So this is a problem for exploring Mars, is to have the orbiters relaying data and information back to Earth. Now, they could pick up signals from Curiosity and Perseverance directly from the surface of Mars, but that takes a more powerful transmitter, weaker signal. And as you see here, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has solar panels on it for power, as well as that big cone on top is its antenna to send stuff back to Earth. So Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is basically to study the surface atmosphere, probe the underground, gain a better knowledge about the distribution of the history of water on Mars, whether frozen, liquid, or vapor. And it has done all of that, as well as carrying to space the most powerful camera ever taken to any other planet. And just for fun, I thought I'd show you a little bit of science complex graph here of what they call the high-rise telescope mirror, very high-resolution imager. And then it has several other smaller telescope cameras on it. But this was basically pioneered, I think, by the University of Arizona, is one of the leaders of the optics of spacecraft. They also built a powerful imager that was on the Cassini spacecraft that went around Saturn. And we have an orbiter around Jupiter right now called Juno. But that's the only other planet that we have something orbiting around, of course, besides Earth. So we're going to, every 112 minutes, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has been orbiting Mars for 16 Earth years. That's about 8.5 Mars years, because it takes almost 2 years for Earth years for Mars to go around the sun. And we're going to see some gorgeous pictures from this. But like I wanted to emphasize, things that go to Mars have failed. About 50 missions, about 30 have been successful, and we had some real bad failures. Mars Observer in the 1990s, cost $1 billion, and it was supposed to find landing sites and so forth, just like this one did. And when they pushed the engines to orbit, slow it down to orbit, it blew up. There was something wrong with the fuel line that actually spun the craft out, and it probably flew apart. So we've had some other failures, but this was a very big success on Mars. I told you the orbiters, 8 of them. What we have on the on surface is Perseverance and Curiosity. We have the Chinese rover called Zhurong, and we have InSight at the North Pole. Is a NASA probe called InSight that is not a rover, and it is drilled down into the Mars surface to gauge its heat level, heat flow, Mars quakes, and so forth. So what's that's Percy, Curiosity, Zhurong, and InSight. What would be the 5th one? How about Ingenuity, the helicopter on Mars? It's an independent vehicle that's on Mars, though it's about this. I could fit it in my hand right here. So 5 objects on the surface that are active and 8 orbiting Mars right now. And where is Mars, you wonder, since I'm talking so much about it? Let me get a little mug talking about astronomy here. Well, get up early in the morning, like my good friend Marty usually does, before dawn, and you'll see Venus is the brightest star in the east, and another bright star near it will be the planet Jupiter, and then there'll be a fainter star that's definitely reddish. That is Mars. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are all close to each other. And Venus, yeah, you can throw Saturn in there too. Saturn's in that area. It looks butterscotch in color. We saw all these planets in the winter sky after sunset, and now they've all, as the Earth has moved around, they've all shifted to the morning sky. This December, Mars will be closest to Earth. It comes every 2 years close to Earth, about 22 months, what we call an opposition. So starting in October, we will be excited to show people Mars through telescopes, as you can see the disk, the polar caps, and surface markings on it. So, well, let's look at some of these wonderful pictures taken by the Mars Excursion rover. Here is a beautiful collage. And what is above my head here, Marty, in that snaky-looking white cloud is just that. That is a downward look at a dust devil on Mars, and that is the shadow caused by the dust devil. Dust devils on Mars are very common in the thin atmosphere. They're like a column of dirt that's spun around, and they've actually cleaned off the rover surfaces. That was what allowed the Mars Excursion rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, to last 7 and 12 years respectively, instead of their 90 days that NASA guaranteed. That's right, NASA guaranteed those little golf cart sized rovers would last 90 days, 3 months. The one Spirit lasted 7 years, and Opportunity lasted almost 12 years. And they didn't really break down. They got caught in a one got caught in a hole and couldn't move, and its solar panels were tilted away, so it couldn't replenish its batteries. And the other one died when a global dust storm that covered all of Mars, and that happens quite frequently, every 2 or 3 years. They have these giant dust storms that obscure markings, even in that thin atmosphere. So dust devils are quite prevalent. And look at that, the Mars Excursion rover captured that. On the right is a recent impact crater, all right? On the bottom are some sand dunes that are in various stages of ripples across this cold desert that you got to think of. Mars is very cold. And to the right is the moon Phobos, the smaller of the 2 moons that orbit Mars. Well, here is another structure on Mars. These photographs from this high-rise camera on Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter are almost like works of art. Wouldn't this be beautiful in a 2 feet by 3 foot framed in your home? People wouldn't have a clue what it is until you told them. You're looking at a strange sand dune area of Mars where these finer grains of sand have been blown up and this hump, and then you got these little areas there that so detailed and intricate. Why is Mars red? Well, it had a series of giant volcanoes that belched in the early days of Mars when it had water, and this is what the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has definitely found traces of water and ice and carbon dioxide frozen on Mars. But Mars had a violent past and a wet past, and we know this because this is why we sent the rovers where they are, because we basically landed the rovers in a delta area where a river of Mars emptied into a lake. But all of that's gone, and this is the big mystery of a 4.5 billion-year-old planet like Earth and Mars are. Mars had a lot of water, but it lost it all very early in the first billion years. Was this because it's half the size of Earth? And gravity, as only 1/3 of the Earth's gravity, maybe it couldn't retain those hydrogen, oxygen molecules that make water. Here is that impact crater that is a fresh crater that probably impacted Mars within the last 6 months of when Mars excursion rover, reconnaissance rover went over and imaged it. And then it keeps going over this area and sees how the atmosphere and the erosion of the wind has changed it over time. And then we can learn more about Mars. Well, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has also imaged all of the landers, some of them that have crashed. It has seen the Beagle lander that crashed on Mars of the Europeans. Actually, it soft landed and its pedals, its communication pedal of its solar panels did not unfold. This is the landing bag of the Mars excursion rover called Spirit that actually did a hole-in-one in that crater. Landed inside this crater, taken about, it's about 115 miles high is where the orbiter is. And this is what the bag looks like from the surface. Okay, incredible, isn't it? But I'm going to show you some other incredible photos that MRO has taken over its decade and a half of orbiting Mars. Here's just another gorgeous view. What happened here? How did this happen? Okay, this is another sand dune structure with different features on it, taken from orbiting Mars. And here's the one that I have behind me. So artistic. The red color of Mars is actually rust. Okay, these volcanoes belched out the innards of Mars that was iron, and the iron goes to the surface, and the atmosphere that had water in it made iron turned into rust with the oxygen in it. So that's why the surface of Mars is red. It's actually a rusty area. And the rovers have drills and scrapers to scrape off rocks, and they find that there's a layer of rust covering everything on Mars. And some of it is kind of like enamel to it, so they have to have brushes, scrape it off, and then they analyze what the rock is really like. But those are the rovers. Here we have a picture, a little bit pixelated. I think I'll drop it down for us here. That is a part of a crater of Mars that the MRO's gone over, and you can see that the sides of this crater have gullies in it that remind you on Earth of what? Water wash gullies that you see on any level, from a little in your yard where a gully like this would be created in maybe your garden in a lower area, to a giant crater that this is. So what we're actually seeing here is evidence where water has seeped out of the surface of Mars through the craters and gone down the sides here. And yes, the white is carbon dioxide you see here. Here's an interesting photograph, Marty, that shows an actual impact crater, pretty recent, that has an impact that has brought up ice from underneath Mars. This white area is on both of these craters. This is ice that, and on October 18th, the same crater that was brought up to the surface, and then it precipitated out through sublimation. All right. It went directly from ice to water, to gas, and skipped the water phase. That's called sublimation because of the constitution of its atmosphere there. And so this happened from October, November, December, January, 3 months there. Look at the results of actual dynamic atmospheric events. Now, I bet you didn't think about this very much. What are we looking at here? A close-up of an ant hill where ants go in and out on Mars? No. We're looking at about a cave on Mars, okay? And the craters caused by the collapse of the cave, just like the crabs on a beach, or there's all kinds of organisms that burrow into the ground and then create a trap. But this is about a 2-mile diameter trap, and you can see the bottom of the surface is a cave. You see the shadow of the edge in there, and then you see the surface of the cave on the bottom. How extensive is this cave? We don't know. Could life live on a cave under a cave like that? Of course, that's a perfect place for life on Mars, because the atmosphere is so thin and it doesn't have any kind of protection from the radiation of the Earth like a magnetic field. Mars does not have a magnetic field. Things could live underneath there. So, Marty, I think there's probably blind crickets and white roly-polies under that cave on Mars. But this is not isolated. There's over 200 caves that have been discovered on Mars in holes on the ground like this. Pretty fascinating, huh, to stay curious with. Now, we thank everybody watching on Stay Curious on our platforms, on Twitch, YouTube, Spotify, and, of course, Facebook. And this is one of the more astounding images, actually 4 separate images showing a avalanche of rock. And Marty's going to circle that for you, sliding down the edge of a crater. Right there is the avalanche going on, and the plume is to the right of it. The right's going that way. It frozen in time as a spacecraft is going about 2,000 miles an hour orbiting Mars. Actually, it probably has to go about 10,000 miles an hour to orbit Mars. I need to check that. And the white area is carbon dioxide that's frozen. And this is the edge of a crater where an avalanche and different areas of it there in 4 different pictures happen while Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter just happened to be passing by. And boy, when I saw this image, I'm thinking, is this like a amoeba or something under a microscopic slide? No, these are, again, dark sand dunes in the South Pole region of Mars. These sand dunes are over a mile long, and interlaced in between them are these sand dunes that are speckled with carbon dioxide. For a better word, landbergs, not icebergs, but landbergs, it looks like. And you can find all these images, of course, on the NASA site for Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. In fact, you as an American taxpayer own these images, and you can do anything you want with them. Now, this is another close-up. Reconnaissance Orbiter is looking at a lander on Mars, and the reflections of the solar panels, and this happens to be the InSight that is on Mars, taken at different times. The middle is after it had landed, and you see the landing exhaust plume on it there. And the other left-hand side is something that came off when it landed on there. So love showing you a few close-ups of that. Here again is another object that is a man-made object on the surface of Mars. You see the white streams coming off of it. Well, that is the exhaust plume of the China lander called Zhangong. Okay, Zhuoung, Zhurong, Zhurong. And Marty, circle that for me, please, because the rover, that's the landing platform, just like we landed ours, our golf cart size, and then down below is the rover itself, taken from space. And here is that selfie, what I called that was my picture of the year 2021, was the Mars rover of China, set down a GoPro camera, then backed up and took a selfie of it and its lander over there. And here our orbiting vehicle sees that very clearly from Mars orbit. Incredible. Here is our Curiosity rover. Looks like it did a couple little wheelies there in the back, or circle wheelies around there, and it's doing well. But we're going to end our little program about Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, celebrating its 16th year in space, by showing you it landing on the surface of Mars. That's right, the little square, and on the big side there is the parachute with the rover's jet propelled landing vehicle that separated from the parachute, and then with jets hovered over the landing area and then released the rover on a 60-foot rope. And then the rope was cut, and the jet propelled lander flew miles away and crashed. The Mars orbiter, captured this. Look at that. But it not only captured this image, it captured the actual moment that the parachute let go, and you see the exhaust plumes of the jet pack, basically, that the rover was underneath. Is that incredible or what, Marty? And here is looking from the rover at this orange colored parachute. Now this is from the rover itself, pictures that were taken, and here's the profile that we're looking at. As all this is happening, coincidentally, Mars Reconnaissance rover is at the right place at the right time, tilted its special cameras to capture the moment of this happening right here. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. Coming down on its landing area right there. And there's the 4 pictures taken from the rover itself, as you see the extended wires on the upper right are the cables that are lowering. The lower left picture is looking up from the rover at the jetpack, just about ready to separate. You can see it's the moment of that because the jets aren't coming out there. And then on the right is the surface as the jet plumes are messing with it there. What a picture. This is incredible that we have the technology to do this. Look at where it's landing. What does that look like? That looks like a dried river delta where, there it is. You see the upper left there where you see the meandering river that was once on Mars 3 billion with a B years ago, and that is the ellipse landing area, 4-mile ellipse there where we did land Perseverance in that area. And if you dried up the Mississippi River and Gulf of Mexico right where New Orleans is, this is what it would look like, Marty. Quite possibly. So there we have it, a little bit of look at our one of the important robots that we ever built to orbit a planet, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And we appreciate a lot of you watching here today. Anita Truex, thanks for all you do. She is our office manager here. Dave Stange, thank you, Dave, for watching. Keith Sowell, hope you're getting better, Professor. Larry Pushkar is watching from Michigan. We got Space Resources. Tom Celentano. Hey, Tom, good to see you. Tom, we'd like to have you on the show someday and talk about your space career a little bit. We got Ophelia Sauterelle in Normandy, France. Carlton Bailey. He's Carlton, you're getting better. We've got a question here. What color is the Martian sky? That is a great question here. And give you a shout out to Christopher Mick in Madison, Wisconsin. He's not Madison. He's Hudson, Wisconsin, I think. And he said he's going to see us, Marty, in a couple weeks. Going to be down here when we celebrate on March 23rd, our second anniversary. March 23rd is a Wednesday, and our board of directors wants to throw a party for Marty and me. I said I want dancing girls, balloons, and a tray of caviar, okay? What do you want, Marty? A day off? He's laughing. He's saying, Mark, how crazy can you get? I don't like caviar. So, but thank you all for watching our little program, Stay Curious. Please tell your friends to like us, share us, follow us, or subscribe to us. What color is the Martian sky? Well, what's your guess, Marty?
Mainly black, very dark.
Very dark. That'd be illogical. We know there's not a big atmosphere to have the blue in it, but we do know that there's a lot of suspended particles that created these sand dunes on Mars, and that keeps Mars a pinkish sky. To look up at Mars is a pinkish world of sky. We've seen this as the sun, they photograph the sky. They've actually done some astrophotography and caught a few meteors at night. But it's definitely a pinkish dark, not a bright pink, but it'd be more like a very faded pink against a darker area sky. So good questions, everybody. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching a little bit of learn a little bit about Mars, how it's a world that is like none other. Very cold again. Mars right now is about 190 million miles away from Earth. In October, it'll be about 50 billion miles away. So in December, it'll be about closer to 40. So we look forward to that, as well as we look forward to tomorrow's show with Travis Todd Thompson. Triple T will be back. Talked to him today. He's feeling good. Been under a little medicine and under the weather for a while, but he's feeling better and anxious to get back and help you all stay curious. So, Marty, do we have anything else to talk about? Well, thank you for all you do. We've had a great, smooth program this week. Thanks to Jessica Galloway for her cheap development company that has helped us take our program to the next level, because we enjoy doing it, because we enjoy bridging the space between us. So we'll see you tomorrow with Triple T to do just that. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette. On behalf of our wonderful museum here, come see us and stay curious.